Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast, The Secret War on Cash, where we take a in-depth look at some of the changing dynamics in our financial markets and our economy. I have with me my co-host, Chris Agelastos. Chris, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Just trying to prepare for the influx of all my family members over the next few days.
Yeah, and actually, for those of you tuning in, this is a little preemptive, but we're doing a pre-record on this for the Thanksgiving week. But have a wonderful Thanksgiving, a blessed Thanksgiving. Be thankful for your family, your friends, your health, your wealth, and all the opportunities that you have. And you just hope that you have a not only wonderful Thanksgiving, but a great rest of your year and a good start into the year 2025, which is right around the corner. So.
Sure.
Well, Chris, let's talk about we've got a new administration not too far away that will be a little changing of the guard. And, we talked a little bit about some of the things in our last podcast that, we may have expected to see when the election results came in, and it looked like now we have this change taking place. And I can only speak for myself, but as the election happened, we've been covering Brics quite a bit over the last year and change, and there's been a lot to cover. That's why we have been. I mean, the things that they're doing, the proposed changes and actual changes, seem to be pretty immense, pretty great.
Mhm.
And one of my main things I wondered about was what is going to happen with Brics. Is Brics now going to become less relevant with the Trump administration in, or are they going to continue full bore ahead? And I was leaning more towards we're going to see them kind of stall out a little bit, but now the stuff that information that's coming out, seems like they haven't even missed a beat. They're continuing on, as planned. So let's look at this first thing here that CC just put up. BRICS countries gain influence over G20. So to kind of to what I just was mentioning, this is something they're saying. Not only are they not slowing down, but they are the BRIC countries are gaining influence over the G20.
Yeah.
So the summit, which is going on in Brazil's
Rio.
Rio,
Yeah.
right? All the world leaders getting together, talking about what's on the horizon, and I think, and we've touched on this, or not touched, we've discussed this before, where I think it's really important for people to understand that when you talk about these BRICS nations, which is a growing roster literally each day,
Hmm.
just because they join BRICS, that doesn't mean that they're no longer part of all the other things that they're already part of. Like those countries that host a central bank, that they still are part of that central bank role. Those countries that are part of the G20, they're not just okay, now you're BRICS, you can no longer be G20. They're still part of
Right.
both.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of speaks to what's kind of feeding the dragon, if you will, in terms of BRICS, is that they don't have to give up what they're doing. I mean, really,
Yeah.
if from my perspective, and I'm going to let you talk about it here, Chris, but really the only thing that they kind of give up, and they don't even have to totally do this, but they kind of give up by joining the BRICS alliance, is the use of US dollars. And if
Hmm.
not altogether, at least wise, they have the ability to really not use it nearly as much or at all if
Yeah.
they should so choose. That's it. Other than
Yeah.
that, they can continue to again feed this BRICS alliance and still continue with business as usual. So,
Yeah.
what's your take from this article?
Well,
What do you think?
yeah. I mean, it's great for them. They can head over to the G20 and recruit some new members. They can they can hang out in the same social circles. It's kind of like having somebody at your company go start their own business and still come to your Christmas party and talk to your staff and maybe try to entice them to come over. So we joke about it, but I mean, that's how things like this happen, right? Through networking and trade deals and creating these unions. So, and that's what they're doing here at G20. And in fact, Indonesia accepted an invitation to join BRICS at the meeting. So, and obviously that was in the works, but no, I don't think they're going to slow down. There's been too many years of planning and effort, put into this. Not to say that there aren't going to be periods where they are moving a little faster or back off a little bit, but we're still headed to the same destination.
Right.
And I think regardless of who's in office, so yeah, and they're proving that they can sustain their economies without the US dollar, or at least with using it less. And you're right, most of them tend to transition over time. It's not like they have to drop the dollar tomorrow. They're just working towards this, new BRICS alliance and lessening their dependence on the dollar. So yeah, I think we're going to see, more of the same overall.
Sure. And now it's totally random, but as I was reading through this article, they talk about how, and they have a picture of all the people, holding hands and a nice little sign in the background there. Biden missed the photo op on Tuesday, and they
Yeah.
didn't explain why. Benefit of the doubt speaking, I'm hopeful he was in a meeting elsewhere that he couldn't
Uh,
couldn't miss. Um,
my money's
but
on nap time.
I just, well, what I really found odd about it is like, he missed it, and then they did another retake of the photo to have him in it.
Right.
So, and I'm sorry for those tuning in if this bores you, but what what I found it to be really curious again, we can do the benefit of the doubt, or maybe like you said, and look, in all fairness, Chris, I thought the same thing. Was he like taking a nap, or was it one of these things that you hear about because the Sleepy
Potty
Joe
break.
deal? Um, but even stranger still to me, and this is the unfortunate thing of how my brain works, is like I'm like, well, why do they even take the time and trouble to put this in the article? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it
Yeah.
was just a matter of a photo op and maybe had another meeting, and so they had to redo the photo op, it just seemed like a
Yeah.
really peculiar thing to even put in this article. But there must have been a reason. So I don't, one of these things that not nearly as interesting and as lost as the Kennedy assassination, but I don't, it's
Right.
probably one of these things that we're never going to get the full answer to. Maybe we will. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, and then so let's looking at the second article here,
Hmm.
which speaks to what really Brics their campaign slogan or term is, and that's de-dollarization right here, front and
Hmm.
center in the article. And in the course of all this, it talks yet again about 12 countries moving away from the US dollar. And so, kind of to the point that we were discussing on the open of this podcast, it looks like no, BRICS is not slowing down at all. They are continuing to gain new members. They are continuing to attract more interest, and that interest comes from people not wanting to be dollar dependent any longer. And as we've discussed, as they do align themselves with BRICS and distance themselves from the dollar, their seemingly, or what's been talked about, their immediate benefit is that it strengthens their domestic economy. And why wouldn't they want to
Yep.
do that? So, 12 countries joining. I think the trajectory seems to be the same. We've talked
Hmm.
about it a million times. Do we see this slowing down at all? We've kind of agreed that no, we don't. So I'll ask you, we've given these last two things, we have a change in administration. Do you think, or should we expect to see, or do you see anything that is going to slow down this movement known as BRICS?
No, I mean, like you mentioned, they're able to use, if these countries can use rubles and euros and the yuan and gold to transact and not have to rely on the dollar, especially as the dollar's value. I mean, we've all seen here in the U.S. The inflation that we felt over the last several years. Countries holding on to that currency lose that purchasing power as well. So it's not just you and I when we're headed to the grocery store. So there's really no reason for them not to. I mean, the dollar would have to be so beneficial to them, which means it would have to be strong and strengthening, not weakening. It'd have to be managed well. The only way they're going to want to pull from their own currencies and move towards the dollar is if we make a lot of good decisions with the dollar. And like we were talking about, just about like the U.S. debt and the really the mess that our politicians have made of our dollar and our budget, or our lack of a budget. over the years. That's just not something that you can dig right out of. So these countries, I think, are going to continue. And I mean, there's some small ones in there, but I mean, they're, just in this article, they're talking about Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, China, India, Iran, Malaysia, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Venezuela, right? I mean, these are maybe individually, they're not enormous, although China and Russia are pretty big on their own. But when you add it all up, it's a big impact. They're all moving in the same direction. They have a lot of momentum. That is not going to change in my opinion. It's going to be more of the same, and I think with a better chance of speeding up than slowing down.
Right. I agree. Well, and I just had a thought, Chris, and I know you're going to think it's crazy, but hear me out on this. You know, the U.S., we have a pretty severe debt problem or debt issue in this
Hmm.
country. That in part is what's kind of weakening our dollar and kind of feeding into, this effort of de-dollarization. And it's been a ongoing question, what do we do to help our debts, our deficits, to strengthen our dollar? And it just the downward trajectory continues. So it literally seems like an unfixable problem. But what I was thinking is, what if the United States joined BRICS and they de-dollarize themselves? Would that not help their
Uh,
situation?
I may need to start buying some rubles. I hadn't thought about that. we may start de-dollarizing and jump on their train, right?
I don't think it'll work, but at this point,
No,
nothing ventured, nothing gained. So,
right.
all right. Well, done a great job of explaining this. Explain to people how they could learn more about this and other things, and find out how to get themselves diversified in gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a call, 800 You can also text that number. I know for me, texting is a lot easier and less intrusive these days. So just text us your information, where you want the material sent. If you have any specific questions or concerns, interests, we have a lot of different items. I know the Secret War on Cash is a big popular report that we'll put in there, but we can add some additional things too. So the more info you give us to let you know or let us know what your concerns are, the more we can tailor the materials to you to help. You can also visit the website at SwissAmerica.com. There's places there where you can request specific reports, or just generally put your information request in, and we'll reach out to you during normal business hours, of course, and get you whatever you need.
Fantastic. All right, Chris. Well, thank you. And for those of you that are tuned in, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And have a very happy Thanksgiving and a time of hopefully reflection and giving thanks for your health, wealth, family, whatever it is that we all take for granted or can take for granted. Just take that time to reflect and be thankful. So I'm thankful for you, Chris. Have a great time with your family, and look forward to some upcoming podcasts where we talk about this and some other things that seem to be changing pretty quickly before us. So have a great rest of your week, and thanks for tuning in.
Yep, thanks. Take care.